Welcome back to IYR Talks.
Thank you.
As usual, every week you are giving your valuable inputs on the matters of national, international, and the local area aspects. This week, we want to take your inputs and analysis on basically on the international scenario, the GATT and the World Trade Organization. How does they differ in their approach and in the ideology? And there is a lot of influence of Western countries on the decisions taken in protecting their interests. And there is a big story has evolved over the years, and now with they are not taken into consideration the agricultural inputs also into this, and now negotiations are taking place. Can you just elucidate on this GATT and then WTO activities and what role they are going to play in the future?
Okay, one thing is, all these happened post World War II. GATT is a trade agreement that has come about somewhere around 1947 or so. Before the World War, there was huge protectionist trade policies by the economies to safeguard their own economy. So the post 1947, after the World War, they wanted a trade agreement which would liberalize world trade. In those days, trade means basically goods trade, because by then the other issues like services, intellectual property rights were not that major an issue as far as the trade is concerned. So to liberalize this trade between countries, this GATT was entered into. So if you ask me what is the main difference between GATT and World Trade Organization, GATT was only dealing with goods, whereas World Trade Organization deals with, in addition to goods, services and intellectual property rights, and also tried to deal with agriculture, but it could not successfully come to a conclusion on that. So this GATT was going on, then slowly the Western countries realized that their interests, if you have to protect, you need a regime which can look after intellectual property rights and also take care of the services, because they have started having big banks, big insurance companies, and they were looking for outlets. If development countries don't allow them to come in, to that extent they lose their business. So how do we make these countries give access to their big banks and big insurance companies is one big agenda for the West. Second was intellectual property rights. When there was no intellectual property right, somebody can invent something and somebody else can do the reprocessing and produce the same thing at a very, very low rate and sell it. That's exactly what India was doing with reference to pharmaceutical. These big giants, the Swiss companies, the American companies, they were developing new medicines. But since there was no intellectual property rights regime, number of Indian pharmaceutical companies were reprocessing system exactly the same medicine you produce with some difference and then sell it. And they used to have huge markets and huge margins and money, and those chaps who really developed the new product were not getting the benefit out of it. So how do we pin them down? So these were the two main considerations before the World Trade Organization. It started as Uruguay round somewhere in 1987, went on and on for about 7 years before it was finally somewhere around 1994 or 95 or 96. Around that time it was the World Trade Organization took shape. Even then there were huge differences between West and America, Europe and America. Europe wanted a lot of protection for its agriculture. America was not willing for that. So this was going on. Then they cleverly put agriculture into another round, that is the Doha round, starting around 2000, and finished the earlier round of Uruguay, getting access for intellectual property rights and also services and banking, insurance, access to the developing world. Of course, what they didn't realize is this can have a different effect, because once the manufacturing was liberalized, tariffs were done away with, China took advantage of it and became a major manufacturing hub for the world. So that was an unintended benefit that China got out of this world trade. Now, the Doha round, where the agriculture was supposed to be discussed and decided, the Western countries ensured that it fails. So there is no agreement on agriculture, but there is opening up of markets for services, insurance, as well as intellectual property right, which is exactly what the West wanted. So now there are two themes on which the present round is tackling with. In between, one more thing happened. After Trump came, he wanted protectionism. He wanted the jobs to come back to America. He wanted to scuttle the WTO as much as he can. So there is what is known as an appellate tribunal. He didn't appoint judges for that, so making it virtually ineffective. Today, one is countries like India, what is most important is they have a food policy under which they procure at minimum support price and keep substantial buffer stocks. The present round wants a negotiation on that and reduce that buffer stock levels, because they feel that because we are storing, the supplies are getting curtailed, and so world over the food prices are rising. So this is a major issue in which India has an interest, and India thinks these buffer stocks are required with reference to its food security policy. Second, China, now having taken full advantage of World Trade Organization, today wants investment facilitation also to come as part of the World Trade Organization, for which India is opposing, because trade organization is basically dealing with trade, not with investments. This cannot be the agenda of the World Trade Organization. We will have to see where these two major issues of concern for India will get resolved, but I think some of it will be resolved. India's voice will definitely be heard, because not just India, even the African countries are supporting this.